Hi, this is Matt Montgomery with Maximum One Realty in Emerson. I can't be at the sales meeting today. However, Marcy did ask that I share a nightmare closing that I recently had. I have a family member that has moved in with her, moved in to take care of her mother. Her and her husband have moved in to take care of her mother, and they have a home that had sat vacant for about 18 months. And she listed it with another agent, which kind of upset me, but about 6 months into it, the other agent just looked at her and said, "Hey, I can't sell your house." And so I don't know why an agent would say that, but that's what he said. So went over, sat down at the kitchen table. We ironed out some things as far as the listing goes. And so I've kind of, I, I should have never agreed to this, but I agreed I offered rather to keep the grass cut for the life of the listing, and just as a favor to family. And when I offered to keep the grass cut, that turned into, "Hey, can you come?" The house is right next door to my house, and so the husband starts calling, "Hey, can you come help me paint? Hey, I'm working on the floor. Hey, we're working on the deck. Please come over here." And so I kind of felt obligated, and I put myself in a situation where I had a lot of extra work to do rather than just focus on selling the house. And so I don't mind getting my hands dirty, but $260,000, 5 bedrooms, 2 baths. The home was in decent shape outside, especially after I got the grass cut, but on the inside, it was horrible. There were broken windows. The power box, you had exposed wiring. That was very dangerous. The chimney, it was, if you started a fire in this house, the chimney was, I guess, just for looks, because there was nowhere for the smoke to go. So, what else? The seller asked my wife if she would deep clean the home, and my wife agreed, and we found bugs, we found dead rats, we found other animals, we found wrapping paper from years ago. I mean, we found it all. We found baby pictures that they had left in the top of a closet, and we were told, "Whatever you find in the house, just throw it away." We found baby pictures. We found preschool diplomas, kindergarten diplomas. And of course, we didn't throw that stuff away. However, moving on, $260,000, we get our first offer, and it's a full price offer, conventional, $260,000. And the sellers were very upset because they did not understand for the life of them why they were being asked to pay closing costs. And I explained the process. I said, look, the buyers want to wrap this into their mortgage, and the only way for them to do that is to ask that you agree to pay the closing. And of course, it has to appraise. Well, they agreed, and my phone started ringing every single day. "What is the status of this? When are we going to close?" I said, "Well, like we talked about, it's going to take about 30, 35 days, and we'll get it closed." So home inspector comes out, and I am so glad that he did, because there was, there was a four-wheeler tire propped up underneath the home supporting the main water line. There was exposed wires running across the ground underneath the house, some of the wires were underwater. Mold everywhere you could think of, termite damage everywhere you could think of. And the inspector also noticed an issue with the roof. So the roof, at the time that I listed it, was 2 layers. It was asphalt and then metal on top. And that kind of tells the story of this property. It seemed like over the years, as long as the sellers occupied the property, little problems would show up, and rather than fix the problems, they would just kind of put a Band-Aid on the problems, right? So the metal roof basically just sat on top of the existing shingles. And the inspector noticed an area in the back, very small, and his comments were simply, "Recommend that we insert more metal screws into this section of roof." And obviously the buyer, he didn't know what he was getting into. I mean, the heat pump upstairs was leaking. The upstairs bathroom was leaking down into the down through the ceiling, and another big issue was that the half of the home was built as an addition, and so the HVAC system only served half of the home, and everything on the east end of the home was serviced by electric heaters, and portable air conditioners. So buyer backs out. He doesn't want anything to do with the property, which I don't blame him. But I was able to sell him a house later on, and the sellers were mad at me that I sold the guy that was going to buy their house another property. And my phone continued to ring. I've continued to cut the grass and continue to help here and there where I could. But with that said, contract terminated, back on the market. New contract comes in, same deal, $260. Seller paid closing costs, no issues there. But this time it's an FHA. And this house would not go FHA. There's no possible scenario unless there was a lot of work that was completed. And so my advice to the sellers, my clients, was let's wait for the appraiser to come in. Let's see what needs to be fixed for this to be able to work with an FHA loan, if that's what you guys want to do. And at that point, we'll make a decision as to whether we want to complete the repairs or, left foot, right foot kind of thing. Let's just take it one step at a time and see where we land. Appraiser comes out, home's only worth $236,000 based on the conditions of the inside. And the list of repairs to make this house work was probably a mile long. So the seller, against my advice, puts a brand new roof on this home. The seller, against my advice, puts brand new windows in places that they didn't need brand new windows. They painted the entire house on the inside, against my advice, and they started spending money as if I would say, hey, don't spend this money, and they would go spend that money, and it was almost as if they thought that if we put a new roof on the house and we paint here and we put do this here, do this there, we're going to increase the value of the home. And it just doesn't work that way. And so, they end up pulling a lot of money out of their 401k and needing to put it back very, very quickly. And, at the end of the day, I said, look, guys, you can put as much money as you want into this house, but the one thing that you can't control is how fast that we close. And so every day that your money's not in your 401k is another day that it's not earning you money. So I guess that kind of this part of it is, if you have clients that are spending money to try to increase the value of their home, I would caution against that in the same way, that I did. But my clients in this particular situation just wouldn't listen. The hope was that we could leave the table with $210. They had a HELOC on the home, and now we've spent $40,000 that we did not need to spend on this house. And so eventually the money ran out, and it was determined by the sellers. They said, listen, if an FHA loan is what they have to be able to buy the house, then they should be the ones to spend the money to make it work with an FHA loan. And I said, bingo, that's kind of what I've been telling you this entire time. And so finally we were able to get on the same page. So 3 more appraisals, the appraiser came out 3 more times. And that was because the buyers agreed to complete the rest of the repairs with a general contractor. Now, a lot of the problem that we ran into was the repairs that were completed, even though I told the sellers these have to be done by licensed electricians, licensed plumbers, licensed mold specialists. All of these things have to be completed by licensed uh, individuals, right? Well, my friend from church came out and did this, and I'm thinking, oh my goodness. Our friend from church came out and did this. I was like, oh my goodness. So anyway, eventually, the buyers were able to secure a licensed general contractor to come out and complete the repairs at their expense. The sellers were only out of pocket another $500, so they have about $40,500 in repairs to this home. And the appraiser came out 4 times, I believe, and we were finally able to get it closed. But I mean, even we were supposed to close September 17th, but even the idea of extending the closing date, we extended the closing date to October the 28th, and sellers were irate. Well, why do we have to extend the closing date? We shouldn't have to do that. And so October 20th comes along, and we are almost there. I mean, I think the only thing left that the appraiser had to sign off on was one of the buildings in the backyard had to be painted. And the sellers made the statement, about October 20th, if we're not going to close October 28th, then we're backing out of this deal. And I said, so you're telling me that if you had to wait till the 29th to get your $260,000, you would back out of the deal? They said, absolutely. And, the good news is we were able to get it closed. The bad news is they walked away with a lot less money because they did not listen and heed their agent's advice. And so, when the sellers or buyers are paying you for your expertise and your advice, I would listen if I were selling my home and I hired somebody to advise me through help me through the process. I think I'd listen to them. But just at every turn, anything you can think of to slow down the process, my sellers did. Even down to obtaining the buyer's contact information, just because there was a chance meeting. They began communicating with the buyers more so than they did with the agents. And, that threw a wrench in things. But we were able to get it closed. I made a little money. But, it's been a nightmare that's been going on since July. And we closed October 28th. But we were able to get full price, seller paid closing. But I think just out of spite, they said, we'll pay the closing costs all except for $500. And you and the other agent can work out how that's going to be paid. And so the other agent and I agreed to pay the $500 just to get it to close. But we got it closed October the 28th, and I'm no longer cutting that grass. So that is my nightmare closing, but I would take a nightmare closing over no closing any day of the week. I hope you all are having a great day. I'm a full-time school teacher. That's why it looks like I'm, as Marcy puts it, in a prison right now. Yeah, I'd take a nightmare closing over no closing any day. Don't be afraid to get your hands dirty within the bounds of the law. And I hope you all have a great evening. I wish I could be there. Thank you. Bye-bye.